Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Chill Mom Boss Show. I'm your host, Michelle Hon, and today we have a very special guest with us, Anji Hallewell. And Anji, I'll just let you introduce yourself to our audience and tell us what you do.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Anji Hallewell. I am a multi-award-winning career coach here in Singapore, and I've made it my mission to make sure that people are doing everything they possibly can to have an amazing career so that they can live a fulfilling life and have no regrets at the end of the day.
Lovely. So bring me back to the start. How did you get into the business?
Well, I've always worked in talent development. And it's so funny, like you try to repel away sometimes from the thing that you know the most. And I found myself very burnt out, very lost. So I know what it feels like to feel like you're backed in a corner and that you've made some wrong decisions and some wrong choices in life.
Right.
When it comes to your career, I think, when you're ambitious and you really want to be doing something more, you can get really caught up in that narrative that it's too late to do something now. And it's really as a result of being in that space and being able to successfully come out of it that had made me realize that, hey, if I can do that, and I know I'm not the only one that thinks in that way, I can help others get clear, get noticed, and get hired in their amazing dream career that they also want to be doing as well.
Yeah, I mean, great. I think one of the best business is, especially when we understand what problem people are going through and how we could help them, because you've personally been through that.
Yeah.
From coming with, I've been through this and I think other people would need this too, to actually go, hey, I'm now a career coach. How did that happen?
Yeah, so, it's so funny. We try to ignore the signs that we should be doing something else because it's easier just to stay with the devil that you know. Yeah. But life has a wonderful way of making sure that it taps you on the shoulder. And when it taps you on the shoulder and you still continue not to listen, then it starts to bellow at you. And this is like when the big things happen in life. And, I was very much like, I was 34 at the time. Like, when I think about it now, I was just a baby.
Yeah.
It was like 14 years ago.
Then you're like, I'm too late
exactly.
to be doing something new.
It's like 34 years old, my life is doomed, I've made the wrong decisions, I've got too many bills to pay, I can't take a pay cut, I can't do this, right? All that stuff that if people have ever been in that situation, they know exactly what I'm talking about. And it was only when my dad got diagnosed with a cancer that all of a sudden, there's that saying, isn't there? This quote just sticks in my mind that in the end, the truth will stay and everything else will just fall away. And that's exactly what happened in that moment. Any self-doubt, any fears, any worries that I had about not being able to leave my job, needing to take a pay cut, blah, 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 all of that just fell away. And the only thing that was important was taking care of my dad. And I actually quit my job without a job to go to, which is the one thing that I told myself I couldn't do, to take care of him. Yeah. And as I was taking care of him, he actually had to be admitted and have 24-hour care very quickly.
Wow.
So I remember very clearly this moment that I had with myself coming out of that hospital and just recalibrating what had just happened, because it was just such a surprise that he had to go to hospital, right? And I was sitting by myself in the car park, no one else was around me, that little quiet moment that you just have. And I'm like, oh my God. I've just walked through an entire cancer ward of people that would swap with me in an instant to walk out this hospital with their health.
Yeah.
And there's me all wrapped up in, I can't do this, I can't do that. Right. And all of a sudden, just all of that self-doubt and those worries, they just fell away. The only thing I was thinking in that moment is that I have my health, I have my whole life ahead of me, and I owe it to myself to find out what my potential is. Even though I don't know what it is yet, I'm going to do everything that I possibly can to find out what that is. And I've never had such a true moment up until that point with myself when it comes to me and what I want to be doing and moving forward in my career. And like you do when you have that kind of revelation, then you seek mentors, you seek guidance. I went through my own journey to then figure out, I want to be a coach, I want to be a career coach. After all, talent development is my background.
Yeah.
The very thing that I was just like, no, I don't want to do that. So it's the very thing that I actually needed to be utilizing because it's part of my genius.
Yep. So thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome.
That very personal story.
Yeah.
And that
Dad is
very
okay now,
pivotal
by the
moment
way.
as well. Good. So I'm so glad to hear that. All right. Okay. So, now that you're a career coach, how do you help your clients?
Yeah. So There's three things that I'm primarily helping them do. Get clear, because that's massive.
Yeah.
Don't know what the earth you're doing.
Do next.
What are you going to springboard into?
Yeah.
Right? You're going to springboard off into the wrong direction. I help them get noticed in a crowded job market, and I help them navigate that whole getting hired process as well.
Okay.
These are my sweet spots. These are the three things that I'm continuously helping people with. Sometimes they need all of it, sometimes they need some of it, but these are the three things. Get clear, get noticed, get hired.
Yeah, because if you're not clear, there's no point getting noticed, right? So get clear about where you want to go, and then now that, okay, I'm clear, that's where I want to go into.
Yeah.
You want to make sure you get noticed so that you get hired.
So much more purposeful, right? So many people skip that getting clear part because they're like, no, I just hate my job so much, I just need to go and get another one.
Jump into another one, and then you hate it.
Exactly. It's like, are you any further forward?
Okay.
Avoidance, right? It's more avoidance rather than moving towards something you want. So that getting clear part is super important for those that don't want to be in the same situation maybe a couple of years down the line, and they just want to do it properly. Get the foundation done. It's like building a house, isn't it? You've got to get the foundations right. That's the whole thing.
You got to know what you are building to begin with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So how many years has it been, and what has been maybe one or two of your proudest moments?
Yeah, so it's been 7 years. Yeah, just coming up for the 7-year mark, and thinking about how many people don't make it first couple of years when they step out on their own. I'm like, I have to be grateful for that every single day. But I've always had one thing in my mind that at no point have I ever thought about stopping and turning back. Never, even though there have been months and times where it's been challenging.
Tough, challenging months,
it was a breeze, right? Yeah. You know, as someone that's set up your own businesses and helping multiple people do the same for them, there's always challenges and bumps in the road that you come up a long way. But I've never, ever had it in my mind to give up. So I've always just kept going. And I think my proudest moments, I mean, what do you talk about? Is it the awards? Is it my own personal growth? I'm proud of those, but I don't know if that's my proudest moment. I think my proudest moment is when somebody really gets that, this is what I can do. This is what's possible. You know, when I look at people that have maybe been working in the same thing that they've been doing for the last 20 years, and they want to do something different because their soul is just like dying inside, but they're telling themselves, but it's too late now.
Yeah.
And then we actually look at a different possibility that they can pivot into, and the light bulbs go on. I think they are my proudest moments, because I just feel like I've got through. They've seen it.
Yeah, and you've made an impact in someone's life.
Yeah, it's very magical. It's a very magical experience.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not just that person themselves, right? And if they feel better about themselves, if they find their true purpose and they're happier, it affects everything else in their life.
Oh my goodness, the ripple effect of that, you know, in terms of, you know, I've done a lot of work on myself. I think you have to, as a coach out there, being responsible, you're co-creating something with someone else. You've got to make sure you're in your best space to be able to serve that person at the highest. So I've done a lot of work around what's my own purpose. And I know that at my core, I want to create harmony in other people's lives. And if they're happy at work, because I'm working with very career ambitious, driven people, right? And if they're happy and have harmony within their work, then they're happy within themselves. If they're happy within themselves, then they're great to live with. They're great to have a relationship with. They're a great parent. It's just a complete ripple effect. And of course, that also extends into who they work with, their teams. But it's just like, it's the pebble in the middle, and then that positive ripple effect just happens. And I feel like I'm able to create that ripple with them.
And I like what you say about, you know, because you are coaching them. So you have to make sure that you are in the right mind frame and all of that, right?
Yes.
So how do you keep yourself being tip-top in those areas?
Oh, man. Yeah. Great mentors.
Thank you.
Always looking at world-class people that are doing something at a different level, because you learn so much from that. It's how you grow, you know. It feels like such a big leap sometimes when you're turning to someone. It feels like they're much further ahead. But it is the fastest way to be able to accelerate yourself and to accelerate your growth. So in terms of, how do I make sure that I'm in a good space? Of course, I have my own, taking care of myself. And from a mindset perspective, from self-care and making sure that I am showing up every single day as the best version I can possibly be in that moment, in that day. But in terms of how do I make sure that I'm on top of my game? How do I know that I'm giving my clients the absolute best that I can possibly give them? I think I am just continually continually learning from other experts that are just doing an amazing job, and I want a little piece of that. If I can just take a little piece of that and I can embody that, then I'm already able to achieve showing up as my very best for anyone that I'm working with in that moment.
I love that. Do you have like a daily routine?
Kind of. It's a bit flexible. I'm a flexible kind of girl.
Okay. Take us through that.
Yeah, so I've become very aware of stress levels. I'm now heading towards 50 years old. So there's a lot of changes already hormonally within the body. And anyone that's been through that or lives with someone that's been through that, it's a little bit challenging. You don't always know what's going on. So I like to make sure that my day starts calmly. At least start the day calmly so you give yourself a good chance, right? So I always just take a moment to write my gratitude list in the morning, get myself in the right energy. I always make sure that I'm fully hydrated. I always take my dog out for at least a 30-minute walk because I find that a really great way just to kind of get out in nature, and it's such an easy way to do that in Singapore, right? To be able to get out in the sunshine pretty much most of the days. Just kind of set the day off right. I like to exercise if I can, if I have time. Outside of that, and I do also check my my metabolism levels as well on a daily basis, just to see where am I, what's changing, what's happening, because it's a good indicator of what's happening hormonally, and it kind of explains on some days if I'm not feeling 100%, then I know what's happening. So I like to use data, like health data, to help me navigate that, because then I know what to do. So that's kind of like the non-negotiable part, and anything else on top of that, then that's a bonus.
That's like the non-negotiable. Absolutely. We need to first know about ourselves, whether through data or just through daily understanding, and then we're able to improve and know what's going on. So I love that.
I think we always need to
find out about that metabolism thing.
Yeah, I have to share that with you. But I always think there's these two things that we need. Like we do need data to help us. Like in business, you need data, right, to help you know what to do next, to make some informed decisions. You need that in your career. But we also need our own intuition, our own inner guidance as well. And I think, when we're able to pair both of these things together, that's when we start to really make some strong, empowered decisions for ourselves.
Absolutely. So let's go back to helping people with a career. What's the one biggest, maybe, misconception people have around getting their dream job?
Okay, I'm going to try not to pull my hair out as I share this with you. And it's funny because you do, when you speak to a lot of people with the same problem, you get the same answers. People think the same thing. And I have to remember that I thought that once too.
So once and for all, let's burst it for us.
Exactly. If you are 45, if you are 55, if you are this kind of age group, it is not too late to change your career. But of course, we need to do it in a way that it doesn't totally disrupt the status quo. When we think about a career switch, what it's like switching off a light is instant. You can't one day be an accountant and the next day become a vet, right?
Yes, fair enough.
Not going to happen, right? But what you can do is look at a sustainable way that you can migrate, a transition. Because when we start to transition, it's smoother, it's less overwhelming, it's considered. We need to look at what do you do now? What would you love to be doing?
Yeah.
Because it lights up your soul.
Yeah.
And rather than just flicking the switch and going, okay, I'm going to ditch in my job and now I'm going to be this, because that's one way you're going to destined to fail. Why don't we set up an actual plan where we know what skills you need to acquire, what experience you need to get, who you need to be connected to, how are we actually going to do this in a way that it doesn't totally disrupt everything in your life and become super overwhelming so that you'll be successful at being able to do it.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest misconception is that it's too late to change because people think it has to be an instant switch, which is going to be disruptive. And they're right about that to some extent. They're right about that last part, that switching is disruptive. But I just want people to take away that it's not about switching. It's about migrating and transitioning. And if we do that, it can happen.
It's a process.
Flow, grace, ease, because it's a transition.
It's a transition.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I guess sometimes, if you're doing this and I really love to be doing this, in the mind it's like, but how do I go from here to here?
Naturally.
And then, like you say, the skill to acquire, the people. I don't know anyone in the industry. So again, comes back to the mindset first that you can do this.
Yeah. Exactly. There's 3 core steps that I take people through in that process, and the first one is getting a clear headspace. Because there's so much stuff going on up there, right? There's just like, but this, but that, and it's like block, 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 block.
Yes, just like how I teach people how to start the business as well.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're considering questions that isn't supposed to be considered now.
Yeah.
You're not at that place yet. So that's exactly how you teach them as well.
Exactly.
One foot after another.
Exactly. It's a little bit like wanting to run a race and wanting to complete the race, but your mind is shutting it down. And it's almost like someone comes in and puts a barrier in between you and the actual pathway, right? It's just like, I can't finish the race now because I've been blocked. It's like, we're doing that to ourselves.
Right.
We're blocking ourselves.
So
right?
How long should one sort of prepare for that transition? How much time?
Do you know, it can often happen sooner than people even can imagine.
Yeah?
Yeah. When people are at that sort of 40s, 50s kind of stage of life, there's a different priority now that people have. You're not in your 20s anymore, you're not in your 30s anymore, where you might have been a bit more, I've got time, or I'm just trying to work my way up the ladder, I just want to get promoted, I just want to earn money. Something shifts when you get into
now what?
Your 40s, your 50s. It's more about enjoyment, satisfaction, fulfillment. These are different drivers and different motivators.
Right.
So actually it's about discovering what is going to satisfy that first. If we can find what satisfies that first, that how is so much easier. It just flows because of that, right? But we got to get that in place.
And that's exactly what you help people do.
Exactly.
It's exactly like asking the right questions so that they find that fulfillment piece.
Yeah.
And then we'll figure out the how. Because
Exactly.
the how could be
the how is
maybe longer,
easy,
maybe
right? The how is like a 1-hour conversation.
I see. Okay. All right. Lovely. All right. So now, we're coming to the end. I do love to ask, we did work together sometime last year together.
Yeah, yes.
And, what made you decide to work with me as a business coach?
Well, I love what you're doing. I love how authentic that you are.
Thank you.
I love how you've been able to achieve all the things that you've been able to achieve, despite being a mother and having all these other things going on, right? So it just kind of shows, look, it's possible. But more importantly, I just love the style in terms of the way that you're running your webinars, your live launches, the way that you're, selling, and I just something about that just really vibed with me. So the time that we were working together to really help me with my marketing, because that was like a big step for me to suddenly start paying for ads. It's not that I was concerned about the paying for ads. It was just what's going to work?
Out there. Yeah.
What's going to work,
yeah.
right? So it was really great to say, okay, thank you. I've got someone that knows what they're doing. You and your team, just to magic something up that was going to work for me. And it has. And I've been able to rinse and repeat that on several launches. So it's amazing that I'm attracting the right people through because of the work you and your team have been doing, which has really helped me in those live launches. Since I've been doing that, so I've done 5 live launches since we did that marketing last year.
Yeah.
Sort of maybe about summertime of last year. It was something like that.
Yeah.
So I've done 5 live launches on the back of that. Yeah. And there's been an exponential growth in terms of cash flow and revenue that's been coming in since I've done that. So thank you to you and your team for that.
Thank you. I'm so glad to hear that. So we're coming to the last question of the interview. How does Anji define success?
If you're waking up every single morning and you love your life, I think you're successful. Now, does that mean that you're going to have the highest paying job? Does that mean that you're going to have everything's going to be perfect in your life? No, probably not. But are you healthy? Are you focusing your time on the things that matter to you?
Yeah.
Are you working towards your goals because you know where you're going and you're on purpose? To me, that's success.
Yes, I love that. I love that. And usually we'll also ask, do you think you're successful? And by your question, yes, you are, Anji. And so thank you so much for coming on this show. And I hope that everyone have taken a little bit of takeaway with you in terms of looking for a brand new career or a career switch. So thank you so much, Anji.
Thanks for having me.